Okay, wow. This is actually take 2. I've went through the whole spiel on this video as far as getting prepared on my Scrimshaw technique that I want to help show you. And I sketched it and everything else, and then my phone blanked out on me and it didn't save the recording. So I'm going to recap quickly what I long-windedly said the first time. So the first thing you're going to need is a choice of needles. I'm going to be experimenting tonight with the Schmidt's 5 universal needles. I'm going to use number 14. It's a sewing machine needle, and I am in fact putting it in my mechanical Staedtler pencil. And the reason is because it gives me a little more grip on that small needle, and quite frankly, if I could use this larger needle, I absolutely would. It's stronger, it's thicker, but it doesn't fit in my pencil very well. It'll go in to that point and then it's that long sticking out, and that's a little much. Maybe. I really wanted to have something I could bear down on, so I'm going to attempt using this sewing machine needle first. This is what you would call a scribe. In the whaling times, the sailors would use a sail needle and or a pocket knife or something very sharp, and they would carve into a whale's tooth or a marine bone, or carve a marine bone into something. In this case, whale's teeth are in fact illegal because they are an endangered species. So don't really want a whale's tooth anyway, but you can use bone, like animal bone if you want, like some kind of a leftover bone from something, maybe a soup bone or something. I don't know, I don't have any bones, so the only kind of bones I have were these domino bones. So with these dominoes, I attempted, this was my first set of attempts, I was trying to create the Scrimshaw in a domino, and I actually did manage to do that. Let me this was in tribute to my dad, but and I'll probably keep this. It's November the 7th at 9:05. My dad passed, 2018. He's gone fishing. This is a fish. The problem that I had continuing with these bones was that I needed to gloss it over. I lost, once I scraped into it, once I sanded down, it took away a lot of my gloss, and it took away my finish. So, and it's a little harder to scrape into. So what I did, and I don't know, here's a little, I was sketching a little tree there. What I did is I created a second one. I've been practicing in these bones, and so what I did is I took some, now I'm going to forget the name of the glue. Every crafter uses it, and I don't know why my brain doesn't want to work. Got too much in it, I suppose. But I did a quick one here. It's not the best, but it was just something, it's a test phase. So I can use the glue on top. Of course, you've got to make sure it domes out. And I'll try to remember. If not, I'll put it in the video. What kind of glue it was. It dries clear either way. A lot of us crafters love to use it for doming and embellishing little necklace pieces or paper pieces. So in order to get the shimmer back, I did in fact lay over the glue, which isn't a bad thing. but I found that these were a little hard to carve into. So I got the bright idea to use paper clay. Well, paper clay was just fine, except once again I was dealing with a dull surface. And being with paper clay, I probably could put some kind of a polish or something over it, but I didn't take the time to test it. What I in fact ended up doing was what you saw in the first video. If you didn't watch it, I'll try to leave that link in the description box below. And what I ended up doing was making another larger one, and I did show that one on the first video, and I covered it with polymer clay. Now, I had mentioned in the video you want your clay to be completely dry, and I in fact was in a hurry, and I put my polymer clay over the wet paper clay instead of letting it dry, and I dried them together when I baked it, which in fact caused it to crack. So it wasn't the greatest idea, and I would definitely recommend that you allow the paper clay underneath this to dry in full. This is just a practice piece, so I didn't mind, you know, working with this tonight. The reason I'm making a second Scrimshaw video, and there's probably going to be more to come, is because a lot of people had mentioned that they couldn't draw, or they wouldn't be able to draw, and I don't want that to keep you from trying this fabulous, wonderful craft. And it's actually a lot of fun. It is a little tedious and intense, but I love that. I love a challenge. I love outside of the box, which is, by the way, a group that I do have. It's called Out of the Box Creation, a Roland Studio affiliate. Please check that out. I have been quite absent in that group at this moment because of my dad's passing, but I promise to get things back underway, and we'll boost the group up and do some fun stuff in the future. Just bear with me. Haven't felt real social or crafty lately, so I've only been doing this because I needed something to keep busy in some slow times. And I'm sure if anyone has lost a parent would understand, you just kind of just don't feel like being out there. So I'm recording videos, and I don't feel like going live yet. I may go live in the future. I've got some memorial videos I'm going to be posting as well. But enough of my chitter chatter, let's get down to the video. Before I lost my footage, I was talking about the Scrimshanders, or Scrimshanders is what they were called. The Scrimshaw artists, the Scrimshanders, would carve a scene into a whale's tooth or a marine bone, and if they couldn't draw, what a lot of them would do would take a photograph or a picture of something, and they would lay it over their whale's tooth, and they would take their needle or their scribe or their nail or their knife or whatever they had, and they would poke holes into the photo, and that's how they would outline their artwork. They would take a needle and poke holes and kind of do a dot to dot. So that's a lot of work. It really is. And this is a thick piece of cardstock, and I got this off of some advertisements. I don't remember where it came from, but I like the compass, and it went wonderful with my whale's tooth, so I thought I would use it. And since this would be great ephemera in the future for another project, I didn't want to poke holes in it and ruin it before I could make copies of it anyway. And so what I've decided to do was to take a piece of tracing paper and trace it out. Now in the first video I actually showed tracing this image in full, but I've lost that footage, so I'm not going to do it again. But what I have done is I have already sketched it through the tracing paper, and quite frankly it was as simple as that. I mean, I'll just do a quick demo here. You just follow the lines. I taped this down on the sides too, and you just follow the lines of your piece and don't move it, which is why you taped it, and you begin to draw what you see underneath. And I do recommend good lighting for this. Mine's not so great, but it's the best that I've got. I did pick up a lamp, so it's better than what I have. And anyways, you want to make sure your shaded areas are taken account for. So, you know, just whatever image you want on your whale's tooth or bone or whatever you're going to do, then you just tape it onto the piece. And like I said, make sure that you do that, the paper clay and the polymer clay properly, or you will get the cracking, because that's what happened to me. So I'm going to put this in time lapse, and I'm going to begin doing my needle pokes with, I'm going to attempt first with this sewing needle in my mechanical pencil. If not, I'll go to my big needle, which I like and enjoy using. I just wanted something to grip a little better. So here we go. Without any further ado, I will hush and get this show on the road. Okay, so here it is. It's not the best, it's not the greatest. Part of the problem was the fact that I used this test piece of polymer clay against the paper clay underneath that was wet before I baked it. So this will probably be trashed. We'll probably just peel that off of there and put a new piece of clay over the paper clay there. But all in all, you get the gist. And I'm sorry that this was the only piece I had ready, so that's what I went for. And it's cracked up, but you get the gist. It still works. And you know, let me just say, like I said, you can't get whale's tooth anymore. You know, it's just not going to happen. But you also can use bone or anything that's got that finish to it, that background where you scratch into it. It's faux ivory, faux bone, faux whale's tooth, faux any of that. You could probably even use some amazing cast for this project. So, you know, I guess it just depends on what you have available to you. So, I hate that this is cracked up and broke, but it still got the point across. You know, trace it on tracing paper, do the little dot to dot, connect the dots the best that you can. You know, you could probably use this in some project too, some little, you know, you can always do something for a three-dimensional something. That'd be kind of cool. Sure, come up with something with that. But like I said, if you don't have bones and you want to try the faux bone thing, I'm going to try this again because I would like to put these into jewelry form, like necklaces or something, to hang. I do have somewhere, I think at home, the mini dominoes, mini bones. That'll probably be harder to scratch into because of the tiny space, but I might be willing to try it. And I couldn't remember what kind of glaze I used on this. It was glossy accent, so I do apologize for my lack of memory these days. And that's what I used on the domino. I think I'm gonna test, since this is a little test piece. I don't really want to put it on here yet. I do have some sculpting glaze right here, so I'm going to glaze this a little bit just to see how that shimmer might look. Let me just get a brush out here. Sure, I've got some brush that'll do. I want to get one of my best brushes. It's kind of soft. I'll get this one. And I just want to do a glaze because since I scratched and sanded, my tooth is no longer shiny. And even though it'll really pull out that pearl that's in here. But I really, that's what I'm looking for. We want that glaze. I love that. That is going to finish that right off. Now again, this one is trash. I'll probably save it just because it was a test piece, but you get the gist, and that looks amazing. So I didn't really zoom in too much when I made my dad's fish. I've drawn this fish so many times now, and now I've carved it. And I just posted on my Facebook a pine box that my stepbrother had created. And my dad always said, just put me in a pine box. So since he chose not to be on display in a coffin, he chose cremation, which was a rare and odd thing for me to experience. But this was the same fish that was, well, I don't think we carved the fish into box, and I say we because I did the artwork for my brother, and he recreated it via the box. Ooh, some of that ink's coming off. Now see, I thought that ink was permanent, so that's rather surprising to me that ink's coming off with that glaze. So interesting. I hope I don't mess up my glaze now. But I wanted to get that tooth, that shiny, shimmery tooth look back on here, because it looked kind of like that when I had my pearl finish, but that's even better, and I love it. So this was the fish that I carved. It's the same fish that I painted in my fish picture when I was doing my before I did my Inktober. It was just, no, it was Inktober. I was just testing that out. I'd never done an Inktober before. There we go. Now it looks like a tooth. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty thrilled about that. I'm loving that glaze. And since it is polymer clay, it works. I'm just gonna let that dry. I'm not trying to put any. So now you can get a better look. I really wish I'd have put a little more of the red in there, but I'm not going to change that. This was my first time doing this. And I don't know that anyone's done it this way. I don't think so. Every video that I found of Scrimshaw was definitely on some bone or something else, but I didn't have bone, and I chose to create my own process. And I said, you know, I want to do the Scrimshaw, so I went looking for these bones, and I was somewhat satisfied, but not quite. And I definitely wanted it bigger, so I created the paper clay and then the polymer clay overlay onto that bone. And it's the faux whale tooth, and I absolutely love it. And then you can see how that glaze really shined it up like a real tooth. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. So just let that dry naturally, and I'll leave it alone, quit messing with it so that it can. And then we'll have this nice shiny nose tooth with my dad's fish carved into it. So I hope you like this video. I will be bringing more Scrimshaw to my channel. I've really enjoyed this process, and I'm not finished. I've got some other ideas in mind that will extend into the crafting community, I think, besides using whale's teeth, faux whale's teeth, and dominoes. I'm probably going to use some of these clay techniques and do something that you can put into your project. So be looking for that video, and I'll see you again next time. Till then, God bless you, and take care of you, and life's too short. Life's too short. Take each day as if it were your last. That's all I can say. And be grateful, forgive, and love. Okay? Alright. We'll talk to you later. Bye.